Hey guys, today's story is going to be a long one and a little bit of a disturbing one. It's about two fully grown adult men attacking and belittling two minors. Hello everyone! This isn't going to be my first RPG horror story, but it's by far the worst because it ended with some incredibly harmful claims about me and my best friend. And a small note here is that this is a burner account, because I know that these people probably use Reddit, and I'd rather not get involved in something again. Naturally, the names and details are going to be changed, so sorry in advance for the length. I feel like a lot needs to be said. This is also partially an AMITA, because although I'm pretty sure that I, or we, have done nothing wrong, I'm still really hesitant to feel completely absolved of guilt. I should also mention that some of the things that are mentioned here in the story are really heavy, so I'll just mention that this is a warning because there's implied CP. Some folks who are important include myself, Bard, who is my best friend and the DM's in real life friend, our DM, the gunslinger, who ended up being one of the main problems, who was an adult in every sense of the word, the cleric, who was the oldest of the group, and again very much of an adult, who also ended up being the other main problem. And then the Blood Hunter, who was someone who ended up having our backs when we honestly were least expecting it. He's a cool guy, although we don't talk anymore. And one last final note on all of us, the DM, our mutual friend Bard, and myself are all minors. And to add to this, I'm the youngest by about 2 years. And lastly, there is one less important person to this whole story. Goliath, who is a member of this campaign that didn't stay very long, but mildly important nevertheless. This all started back last year in roughly July or August, where all of my D&D groups were on hiatus. One DM was at our state fair for 4 hours and couldn't run a game, and another DM was on break after running Horde of the Dragon Queen. As I was being bored at this time, I joined up with a few online games, having never played before online. A lot of the games honestly weren't very good, but one that I joined was DM's game, and it seemed really good, and he seemed well prepared. So needless to say, I was excited. And it was clear that the cleric, the gunslinger, the blood hunter, and the DM all knew each other from another hobby, and other Discord servers. But it seemed like the Goliath and myself were the new players. After getting our characters and everything all set up in Roll20, we hopped into voice chat for the first session, and it went pretty well. I was a bit cautious about roleplaying, seeing as I still wasn't super comfortable with talking to strangers online, but after the session, we all hung out for a bit and chatted, and we all got along pretty well. As the campaign wore on, I was still enjoying myself. But the Goliath kept missing sessions, leading to him being kicked from the game and being replaced with the Bard. I was pretty excited to have a new player, and to not have to play with the Goliath's character anymore as well, as it was a little bit overwhelming sometimes. And in general, the Bard seemed like a really chill dude. Immediately, I thought the Gunslinger and Bard were some kind of close friends. They ended up playing in a one-off, non-canon one-shot at the request of the Gunslinger. But all in all, everyone in general just seemed to be friends. And over time, my rogue and the Bard's character kind of developed a combat strategy, leading to them being good buddies, as well as me talking with the Bard more out of session in DMs, and occasionally working on homework and voice chat together. We were pretty similar, and were the two really big crap posters of the group, and would make memes during session. And, to be fair, everyone else did as well. The gunslinger especially would send a lot of memes in and out of sessions. There wasn't really any issues. Most of the group's disagreements were mock. The gunslinger and the blood hunter being mean to people, or arguing over the blood hunter's actions, as he had some personal issues that sometimes he brought into the game, and acted really inappropriately, even if it was in character. It was just annoying, and no, it wasn't anything gross. Ever. But as a group, we really got along. I texted with the Bard a lot during and after school, and the Bard and I became close friends, because we had similar personal problems as well. So we helped each other out. For example, we were in voice chat together on Christmas Eve. On New Year's, two things had happened. Some outside drama with the gunslinger had transpired, wherein a bunch of accounts got banned, and some of us from the server got involved in it, as well as something in the bard's personal life that really hurt him came up. But that's all I'll say, because otherwise it would be A, unfair for me to share other people's personal problems, and B, too obvious who I'm talking about. In our Discord server, the DM had added a channel at our request, called Quotes. The Quotes channel was mainly used as, well, humiliation almost. If someone said something in or out of session that we found funny, or lacked context, or just in general was really dumb, we would quote them in the channel. This led to not only a lot of memorable campaign moments being saved, but a lot of us being general ne'er-do-wells out of campaign being saved as well. In this server, there was also a private voice channel that only myself, the bard, the DM, and the DM's girlfriend could access. It might sound unfair that only we had access to it, but honestly, it was more so out of ease of access, since we wanted to talk in private sometimes, and listen to the bot. As well as having been made when I was having a personal problem that the DM and the bard were helping with, and we didn't want anyone else to join. This was really convenient because the bard and I would be able to voice chat without having to deal with janky DM voice calling, and without being afraid of having random people join. And when the corona quarantine started, we both had a lot of time off and used it to talk a lot, or just hang out and crap host or do whatever. The DM used it too, and we played Minecraft together. And I'm being completely honest here. It was super innocent. We just liked to, and still do like talking. Now, this was an issue because it led to us staying up incredibly late more often than once, and sending a whole bunch of things in quotes. This wasn't something that happened all the time, but there were two occasions where the bard and I would quote each other back and forth. One time was notably when I got the bard to play Wizard 101, yes, the kids game, with me for a little bit, and he and I were joking around, and the other when we were playing Minecraft. We also sent some quotes from Easter when we were making joke circus characters, and when we were talking with the DM about a card game. We never really spammed the chat, but we did send 9 or 10 quotes, tops, 1 or 2 times. A lot of the quotes were really dumb things. Some of the highlights being, "I'm no longer Pippi, I am dead. I just got hit with a giant axe OP. I should be everywhere in the room except where I'm standing. I should be so dead. I should. Now I'm getting attacked by ninja pigs. Anime ninja pigs. I'm trying to put on House of the Rising Sun. Do you mind?" Danny's leads you directly to the IRA. "We have 689.6 days worth of bread." These are directly taken from the channel, and while there were more, I just grabbed a sample group. I can promise they were all to the same effect. And this is why when the cleric pinged both me and the bard the following morning saying, "Stop the frickin' flirting," we were both completely bewildered. We had absolutely no idea what he was talking about, and assumed that it was a joke at first. That was, until both the cleric and the gunslinger seemed to go off in the quotes channel, yelling at me and the bard, and it got moved to the general chat when the DM put slow mode on to try to stop them from spamming. And I asked for them to explain what was wrong. He said that it was cringy and it bothered him, that it was in a flirtatious manner. I really didn't understand what that meant, so I tried to shut it down right then and there by saying, "If you're genuinely not okay with the quotes, I don't want to go on, but I would at least like an explanation of what to stop, so I can still send some quotes." To which I was told to relax and that it was just teasing. He basically just went on saying that it was cringy, and it was left at that. I'll admit, I got really defensive and upset, because I was afraid that I had made him mad. But both the cleric and the gunslinger assured me that it was just teasing, and meant to be playful. Perhaps it's our fault for not learning our lesson, but the next time that we used quotes, it was over a week later, and 3 things were quoted in this. The first was me quoting the DM about him taking a lot of naps. The second was the bard quoting me about the Halo map construct. And the third was me quoting the bard, who was complaining about the construct. And that was it. The next morning that we woke up, the gunslinger and cleric were really upset, spamming the channel again. So the DM locked it. Again. And this time privated it so that only the bard, myself, and him could see it. And we once again took it to the general chat, where the cleric greeted us with, "Do you realize it doesn't matter because of the same dang reasons I brought up last time? And that you're still doing the same thing over and over again? That I stated made me uncomfortable? Instead of being of average intelligence and going, 'That's fair,' or some crap, you go, 'I'll do it again.' Frickin' morons." I felt sick to my stomach because I really cared about these people, and I really didn't want to hurt anyone. But I decided to stick to myself, and I pointed out how the cleric not once said how he felt uncomfortable in our previous conversation. I had even scrolled up to reread it, and the entire situation was again brushed off. And the cleric replied with, "But you stopped me from communicating, which is so cool." Meanwhile, the DM was telling him that this could have happened before session, and the gunslinger was blaming the bloodhunter, which might have been a joke? He got yelled at in the previous session for talking over the DM and everyone else. Regardless, I brought up how he said that nobody was mad, and how he brushed it off as a joke, and how nobody cared. His reply was that he didn't want to stress me out, and that he thought that we agreed to knock it off. But hey, screw whatever I said before, right? Take the conjecture and twist it into whatever fantasy befits your beliefs. The DM told us to talk it out in voice chat, and I think that we did. Though the session after this was really awkward, and the gunslinger tried to kill both his and the cleric's character, as the cleric had given him control of the character after leaving mid-session. And that was our last session, basically. From there, I don't actually remember all that well, but I do believe that the bard and I were in the private channel when the gunslinger started messaging me. I think that they were trying to get the bard to join the voice chat with them, but I ended up going instead. And it was at this point that I understood what they meant by flirting. Now, I would also like to add at this point that in the story, there was some context that I cut, so as to better narrate how this whole situation went down for me. Because what might have been glaringly obvious to a lot of people wasn't obvious to me, because it was a thought that had never occurred. My D&D character and I are both lesbians. While I hadn't intended to bring this personal fact into the game, I made a passing joke which sparked a romance between my character and another female NPC. It should have been, in my opinion at least, glaringly obvious that I have no, and have had no interest in boys at all. This relationship also wasn't secretive at all either. It had been going on in character since November or December-ish. And we had portions of the game where I actually went on dates with this NPC. What started happening, though, was when the bard and I started talking pretty much all day and every day in VC, the others started assuming that we were dating, or at the very least interested in one another. There were definitely a few moments where the gunslinger and the cleric had both pressed the bard on this fact, and even the DM had brought it up. Now, aside from the fact that the bard is in fact a boy, and I'm not attracted to that, the bard had some trust issues due to a past relationship that was very, very recent. In short, there is no hecking way that this relationship ever would or could happen, especially at that particular time. The bard and I had a joke about a jar that we would put $1 in every time someone assumed that we were dating, because it was so implausible to us. And we found it really funny. Although, to be fair, I'll analyze how it might have looked to the others. Despite my sexuality, and the bard's trust issues, we did hang out a lot, and would DM each other a lot, and crap hosted together during sessions. Additionally, we had duo characters for the game that the cleric was running, where we had a TPK, so we had a good chance to introduce them both. And they were twins. Since I'm an artist, I did make a joking piece that showed my character saying, "What are you doing, Step Pro?" followed by a drawing of the bard's character juggling a pot in a pan, looking nervous and confused. I think that this might have sent the wrong idea, although it was clearly a joke to me. And from there, I genuinely cannot tell why they might have thought that we were dating, other than being a boy and a girl who were close friends, with very similar personalities and backgrounds. To be fully honest, I'm not sure. I'll leave that up to you. Did we go too far with the joke? Or maybe with the quoting and sending memes to each other during sessions in general, it went too far? But with the interlude aside, let's get back to the issue at hand. I had joined voice chat after some prompting from the gunslinger in DMs, which roughly followed him asking me if I liked the bard, and me denying as much. And then him saying that the bard claimed that he turned me down. And then the gunslinger telling me, "Well, that's a lie. I've heard you in voice chat." Which I still don't know what he meant. And then I offered to talk in voice chat, and asked him and the cleric to stop talking about me and the bard dating, as it obviously made them uncomfortable, and myself as well. That voice chat was one of the worst things that I had ever endured in my life, honestly. I'm really sorry, but I don't even remember half of it. When I joined, the gunslinger, the bloodhunter, and the cleric were already there, and I had to immediately go into justifying that, no, I didn't like the bard like that, and no, I hadn't ever turned him down, and no, I didn't know if the bard liked me or not. That we were just friends, and it shouldn't matter anyways. I brought up the point of my sexuality, which they brushed off, telling me that they thought better of me than to use that as a defense. But they kept pushing until the bard came in and, similarly, denied things. Then their approach changed, with them accusing both of us of being manipulators, mainly focusing on the bard, although they did admit that they didn't know which of us was the bad guy in this situation. They were calling the bard a creep, and saying because of our age difference, again, we are both children, that is to say, minors, below the age of 18, he was a pedophile and a pervert. And I'm not going to give specific age ranges here, but again, both of us were minors, and the age difference was slightly less than 2 years. They were claiming it to be 3, because apparently his birthday was the following month, which it wasn't? But it was the difference in age between a high school freshman with an early birthday and a high school junior with a late one. Eventually, after attacking the bard for apparently being a pedophile for dating me, even though he wasn't, and yelling at the both of us for flirting and being friends, they turned to me claiming that I could be the manipulator here, and they didn't trust me either. They said that they wanted to believe that I was a nice girl, but I could be behind it all and they just didn't know. And when I became overwhelmed, my voice broke. The gunslinger told me to not cry because it felt like a defense tactic. The gunslinger parroted this, but also added in that defending ourselves and arguing back was suspicious. He expected 2 literal children to sit there and take 2 grown, self-proclaimed, mature adults attacking them for having an innocuous friendship. Or further, they created a situation where they claimed there was an abuser, and then proceeded to admit that they didn't know who the abuser was, and instead attacked both parties. Not only this, but they got angry with me for trying to defend the bard, and the gunslinger called me the most disgusting thing that I think anyone could have in that situation, complacent. He had the audacity to call me, someone who they said was a victim, complacent. The rest of the call was the blood hunter trying to de-escalate what was happening by providing potential reasons for why things were the way they were. And he did a really good job. But the gunslinger and the cleric were too heated to listen. This came out of nowhere for both the bard and I, and we're still both incredibly grateful for him doing this. Eventually, the gunslinger and the cleric left, and the bard took a quick break. Both the blood hunter and the bard helped to comfort me when I broke down after they left. The cleric and the gunslinger left the server, and the bard and I took a break from Discord, although this was a short-lived break as we decided to hop into another call to discuss what had just happened a few days later. And I could say that it ends here, but it doesn't. Not really. Eventually, having been blocked on Discord, the gunslinger took to Snapchat to harass the bard, which happened to be while we were in a call as well. He quietly went to deal with that, until I got a message on Discord from the gunslinger saying, "Do us a favor, tell your boyfriend, the bard, to stop trying to justify the fact that he told me that you're into him." Having been away from the situation for a few days, all of my anxiety had just turned to cold anger, so I just went off at the gunslinger. He tried claiming that he had proof and screenshots of something that I had texted the bard, despite the fact that the conversation where he allegedly had screenshots from was completely over voice. And the only texts I had sent the bard that day was saying hello, and basically just us agreeing to get into voice. I called him out on this, and he proceeded to strawman, which I also called him out on. He tried to deny calling me complacent by saying that I was a coward. He also accused me of lying about misunderstanding how the cleric had felt regarding the quotes in chat. And yes, this all stemmed from that chat. He told me that I needed to go do some growing up and stop using some personal things as a defense tactic. I told him, as an adult, he needed to get off his high horse and stop pretending that he knew more than I did, and that he had crossed a line. He told me that I had crossed a line and asked me to please do some growing up, to which I responded that what I say to other people isn't your business, before he proceeded to block me. I think eventually he blocked Bard on Snapchat after he similarly refused to back down. Honestly, all in all, the fact I was mentally put in a really bad place because of all this did lead to me and the Bard becoming better friends. And we're basically inseparable now, as we've been through so much now. And we still make jokes about it. And nowadays we're playing in a campaign set 2 years after the old one fell apart, with the Bard as the DM and the DM as an observer. We resolved the plot of the old game, and both of our characters are recurring high-leveled NPCs who help the party. The Bard as the new god of knowledge, after the old one died during the final fight, with my character as his right-hand man, both of whom act as employer for the party. Our new group is great, and the Bard is a great DM. Even if it was crappy, I don't think I would have had this any other way. Well guys, I really don't know where to begin with this one, or how to word it and not have YouTube get upset at me, so I'll try to be rather succinct with this. These two adults should be firstly absolutely ashamed of themselves. They attacked two minors verbally and continued to harass them even after they had left the Discord. Much as the OP said, these two need to do some serious growing up. And with how a lot of things have been going on lately with fully grown adults being attracted to children, I have a sneaking suspicion that one or both of these two might have been hoping that they could have gotten something out of a friendly relationship with these minors. You have 6 people here, 3 of whom were minors, and 3 of them who were not. 2 of whom are implied to have been pretty well up there in age. I'm probably thinking above the age of 30, personally, but I don't know. But that fact in of itself is kind of a red flag to me in of a general sense, because every time I've really seen that happen, it doesn't end well. Not with such a large gap in age. I'm not saying it can't go well, just reading a lot of these horror stories has really kind of made me biased. But hey, at least the Bard, the DM, and the OP have all had a relatively happy ending to this. They're still doing D&D, so TTRPGs hasn't been ruined for them. So, it could have been worse. But that's the end of this story. Let me know what you guys think of these two wonderfully mature adults in the comments, because you guys have a lot more leeway with what you guys can say in the comments than I do in the videos. But yeah, that's the end. I hope you enjoyed the story, if that's even the right thing to say here, and have a good one.